so natural where, things are going really well. You're in a life season where like I have the same writing schedule all the time. I am able to get things done. I am able to write without like trying. what a great feeling that is. My ideas are coming to me. Well, yeah, because your cup is full. Like you have recovered from your last season of burnout. You are good to go. And then you keep going. And you might tell yourself that, like, I have to keep going while I still feel good. And this is actually going to come up in a slide later with Carrie, that we do try to take advantage of getting as much done in the time that we feel good. All right. Another tendency for writers that leads to burnout is those self-imposed or real deadlines that don't account for reality. So I know why I had to set a self-imposed deadline. Structured stress ensured that I got things done. And so I participated in NaNoWriMo in 2016, and I was like, I need to hit the 50,000 words by November 30th to prove that I wasn't just talking about writing my book. I was actually doing it. I was going to have a first draft of a novel. And I swore that I would publish the book by, August of 2019, because I just needed that proof that I could follow through on this dream that I'd had for forever. Now, these are great reasons. Like I knew why I was doing it, and I knew for who I was doing it. And again, those tendencies that drive to keep showing up for as long as you can, and to prove to yourself that you can by putting this accountability on yourself, those are so good. That's so good. And I'm going to keep saying that because like the thing that drives us to burnout is not, it's not bad. It's just that we do too much of it. And so we want to keep it in the healthy zone. And so often what I'll see with writers, and I'm like, oh, she's doing what I did. She wants to prove it to herself so badly that when the deadline is not met, that leads to such disappointment in self, and it prohibits progress rather than motivates progress. And so I always get really excited when somebody has like a little goal for the week, because I know that if she had set a big goal, she may have not reached it by Friday. But if you have a little goal, like y'all surpass those little goals all the time because you're focusing on the process and not the outcome. But we'll talk about more about that in the future. Like right now, apparently. That's awesome. Okay, cool. So that makes sense that I was thinking about that at the same time. So when we put too much focus on the outcome, right, and then we don't reach the outcome, that could be debilitating, because we're like, how am I going to get to the next step? How am I going to figure this out? I had a first draft, and then when I thought about all of the revisions that I would need to do and all of the ways that my book had to change before it was going to be published ready, it paralyzed me. I mean, like a year and a half of debilitating self-doubt, right? I spent way too much time focusing on the outcome instead of appreciating and honoring the process. And if you watched the daily coaching video or listened to our future podcast episode about leading with big D discipline, I wanted the identity of being an author. I wanted the identity of being a writer, but I couldn't tolerate the work that it took to gain that identity. And until I learned how to do that, until I learned how to accept that, like, oh, this is the writer's work. This is how books get written, actually. That's when the game changed for me. And when you're so focused on the future deadline, I didn't realize this until Brad Stulberg's Practice of Groundedness. Big surprise. You can't remain present if you're always focused on the future outcome. And so you literally cannot get into flow if you're always thinking about what you need to be doing for the future. You need to set the goal and then forget the goal and just focus on the process. And so in order to actually be in flow, to experience that for yourself, you need the discipline to show up consistently, whatever consistent means to you. I like to say that even if you showed up for 1 prickle per week, that is 4 hours closer to your reader having your book in their hands, right? But also surrendering the outcome. This is where flow is. This is where we are the most joyful as writers. And this is what staves off that burnout, when we are just showing up. We're just putting in the work a little bit at a time. Not even every day. Just like Caitlin posted in Daily Accountability. She's like 30 minutes a day. I'm like, yes, Caitlin, awesome. But also, if it's just Tuesday and Thursday, like, here's your permission slip, because that will like get you back into the groove, right? We don't have to go all or nothing after a hiatus, which is the tendency. And then you do great, but then you're at risk for burnout. It's so normal to want results now, but staying in the healthy zone means forgetting about the past. So all that shame that you have as baggage of like, these are all the ways that I let myself down in my life. Who am I to think that I could ever finish a book, right? We are so mean to ourselves. And it also means giving up the outcome of the future. So like, if you're working towards a goal, a writing goal, and let's just say that, I don't know, it doesn't work out. Like, let's say that outcome just doesn't work out. Will your health still be intact for you to recalibrate when that happens, for you to be resilient when that happens, to bounce back, to say, that's okay, this is just a little hiccup on the road? Or is it going to be the thing that just totally debilitates you for however long, at the risk of even robbing you of being the writer that you want to be? And so these are high stakes. Like, I'm not just being dramatic here. We've heard stories of people giving up because they were just knocked down after giving it their all. Yes, they gave it their all, but it wasn't in their healthy zone, right? So at the end of a prickle, hopefully by this time, you've learned that it's not so much the outcome or the product that you created. We'll celebrate that with you. We'll say, my favorite is when somebody's like, I only wrote 250 words, and the host or somebody's like, hold the phone. You mean you wrote 250 words, right? We give each other that credit. We help each other judge ourselves, evaluate ourselves based on the level of presence. So how present were you during this prickle? How present were you during this writing session if you weren't on a prickle? And then how much effort did I put in, right? Was I able to forget the past and the future long enough to get into some kind of flow? And then did I really like apply myself to that practice?
Unmute myself. So for me, it was a journey to learn not to compare my capacity to that of others. Much of like what Ania was talking about, we have to stay in our healthy zones, not somebody else's healthy zone, right? We can't just assume that what even our sister or brother who are related to us do is something that we can do. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately. So we want to beware of thoughts that are like keeping up with the Joneses. Like, oh, this author is doing so well and they're releasing a book every 6 to 12 weeks, and I need to be able to do that. No, you don't. That, like, stop and question the premise, right? Why would that be true for you? Just because it's true for them does not mean it's true for you. It might not work for you. Your process is maybe totally different. And 6 to 12 weeks would be crazy. Exactly.
And you don't know like at what cost.
Right.
You
You
know?
don't know at what cost or what their process is. A lot of these authors actually build up their series over time, over 2 or 3 years, and then release in 6 to 12 weeks once that series is complete. So they're working on multiple projects at a time, but you don't see that part. You just see the quick release, and you start to feel this keeping up the Jones tension, right? That you need to keep going. Another thing that I learned the hard way is agreeing to something before you fully understand it. So after that photo that I showed you, a year, not too long after that, I decided to join a USA Today bestsellers list aiming box set. And I did not do my diligence. I did not know how much work this thing was going to be, how much time it was going to cost me. And it was 16 months of pedal to the metal marketing, along with writing, along with all my other prospects, right? And there are authors who love this. They thrive on this. They like sign up for every box set that they can afford to join. But for me, it ended up being devastating. It did not fit on my plate. And I was burned out for 6 months. I was burned out where I couldn't do very much at all. And then I finally, like, when I came back, I knew I couldn't push. I had read this book in the meantime. I knew I couldn't push myself. I started with a short story, started with a just small little, practice assignment. And now, literally about a year later, because this came out last October, I am going to start writing my novels again. It has taken me that long to recover from this. It's a thing, right? You have to be careful, because there's just no comparing yourself does more damage than any other self-destructive habit. Well, I that was kind of where I was. I was all like led it, pulled along by this USA Today bestseller carrot that my author friends were saying, this is going to really help your career. And it's a gold star, and it didn't end up benefiting me the way it was. And now the list doesn't even exist anymore. So no one actually knows what these titles mean anymore. Um, so no, for me, like Ania went back to it. For me, my health was not intact at the end. And the effort that I put into